So let's continue on with the pellet testing. Now this is specific to the pellets I recently put an order in for. I've done some testing on what I consider to be the more affordable pellets out of the group of pellets that I ordered. A couple of the H&N Excite style pellets. I also included in that particular test the Winchester pellets. These I would consider to be not on the higher price range, but definitely more expensive than the previous three that I shot and tested. These are JB Exact RS. They're light, very light. They're 7.33 grain. So I'm going specifically by price, not by any other category. Definitely not by weight. These are lighter than any of the three previous pellets that I tested. But next would be the Predator Polymags at 8 grain. I've got H&N Barracuda Hunter Extremes at 9.57 grain. And I've got the Hades in 177 caliber. These are 10.34 grain. Let's get into the testing. I'm going to do the same shooting test I did for the previous three pellets that I've already tested. I'm going to do 3 shots. Down here in my basement range, we'll check for accuracy. We will check for penetration, and we will check for deformation. I just topped off the tank. What we're going to start off with are those light JSB 7.33 grain RS Diablo. I'll be shooting at the center top target. The next pellet I'll be shooting are the 8 grain Predator Polymags. The next pellet I'll be shooting are the 8 grain Predator Polymags. Second target down from the top, in the middle. The third pellet we'll be shooting and testing are the H&N Barracuda Hunter Extremes. These are 9.57 grain. And the last pellet I'll be shooting and testing are the Hades. These are the heaviest out of this group at 10.34 grain. So now that the shooting has concluded, I thought I would go over the penetration and the deformation first. As far as penetration goes, they went completely in order of how they were shot. The ones that penetrated the least were the JB RS Diablo Exact, which makes sense. They're just a domed pellet. They are the lightest at 7.33 grain. The ones that penetrated the next most were the Predator Polymags, which, if you're familiar with how they're designed and what they're supposed to do, the plastic tip helps initial penetration of the pellet, opens up a wound channel for the rest of the pellet. What you'll find quite commonly is that the plastic tip separates from the rest of the pellet after initial penetration, and then it acts as exactly what it is, which is just a hollow point at that juncture of the shot penetration. But as you can see, as far as deformation, it's pretty deformed. It does expand quite a bit in size. And that quick expansion slows down the penetration. Of course, it's going to lead to a wider wound channel in whatever you're shooting. Again, going back to the JSBs, there was some fragmentation, as you can see, but good deformation. As far as what penetrated the third most was the Barracuda Hunter Extremes. They act much like the Hades do. They've got the, what I call the Phillips screwdriver indentation shape in the head. But as you can see, really nice wide deformation and uniform deformation. The Predator Polymags kind of just crumbled into a pile of lead, while this spread out very evenly. And let me preempt something. As far as the Hades goes, this is relative to the accuracy of the pellet. Slightly different shape, indentation shape on the head of the pellet than the Barracuda Hunter's Extremes. This has a hazard-like warning shape to it with 3 indentations. But because the pellets were so accurate and stacked up on top of each other, that's what I pulled out. A big chunk. This is all 3 pellets kind of welded together. But they penetrated the most. Now, that actually is kind of surprising to me between Barracuda Hunter's Extreme and the Hades. Because of the shape of the head of the pellet, it's made to open up and start expanding very quickly and make a very large wound channel. But they coincided with penetration and penetrating the most out of these 4 pellets. So you do get that exceptional deformation from the 2 and penetration from both, with the Hades, quite honestly, penetrating a good deal amount deeper than any of the 3 other pellets. So for the final part of this video, we'll be talking about the accuracy. And in some ways it came out very much like I expected it to come out, with one thing happening that was a very pleasant surprise. The top target was shot with the 7.33 grain JSBs, and it's terrible. You've got a shot up high, you've got a shot very much centered, and another shot down way low. So it varied quite a bit. And I wasn't surprised by that because of the weight of the pellet and what I've discussed in earlier videos. The gun is tuned to shoot very fast, and just does not like light pellets. Very inaccurate. And quite honestly, you know, the JSBs are lighter than any of the three budget-friendly pellets I previously tested. They are extremely light at 7.33 grain, and it's reflected in the accuracy of the pellet. It's just not very good at all. Now the second one, the second from the top, I've got a very, very true cloverleaf formation there. Which, as you can see, the Predator Polymags did an exceptional job. An exceptional job. All touching each other very close to the center of the target. Now the third target is the Barracuda Hunter's Extremes. Now this is kind of what I was surprised by. These are getting up over 9.5 grain. And I expected them to shoot better. But as you can see, the Predator Polymags at only 8 grain really, really performed much superior to the Barracuda Hunter Extremes. On what I had seen from the 25 caliber pellets, I really was hoping that the accuracy on the 177 version would be better than it turned out. So I am pleasantly surprised with the performance of the Predator Polymags. But again, the Predator Polymags in 25 caliber are a very solid performer out of my 25 caliber Flashpup. And that seems to be the case as well with the 177s. Now, down here at the bottom, we have what is by far a winner as far as accuracy, and I'm concerned. And I'm not surprised by the preliminary shooting I've done with these pellets. This is the Hades, and it pretty much stacks up consistently, pellet on top of pellet, with the Hades pellets. Whenever I've come down here and just want to shoot and be happy with the performance of what I'm seeing out of this gun, I always go to the Hades pellets. They are just the go-to pellet, exceptional pellet, accuracy-wise, out of this gun. They are on the heavier side, which lends them to be a good candidate for the Flashpup in 177 and how it's tuned, coming in at 10.34 grain. And as you can see from this test, just excellent penetration, fabulous deformation, and just by far as what I've shot through this gun, including pellets that weren't a part of this recent purchase that I've already had, just outperforms anything else that I have by far. Quick update. The other day, it's extremely cold. We're talking temperatures in the teens and wind chills in the single digits, if not 0 or below 0 recently. And I did manage to get out in my backyard. I didn't record anything, but I was doing shooting at 25 yards specifically with the Hades pellets, and was extremely pleased with the accuracy I was seeing out there. Believe me, the limitations of the accuracy come almost entirely from me and my inability to be a steady shot. The gun itself, paired with the Hades pellets, just seems to be a fantastic combination. Now, that's for my particular gun. To use as my go-to pellet, especially if I do end up taking this out with me and do some squirrel hunting with it. The Hades are just fantastic out of this particular gun. Just the clear winner in all three categories: penetration, deformation, and accuracy. Very pleased with the performance of the polymags as well. Little bit disappointed in the performance of the Barracuda Hunter Extremes. Not nearly as accurate as I was hoping they would be, and disappointed, but not unexpectedly so. Certainly what I expected from the JSBs, being as light as they are and being as inaccurate as they are out of this particular gun. Pretty much what I expected. So that's going to wrap up the video on these little bit more expensive pellets than the previous ones I tested. Now, there's one more type of ammunition that was a part of that most recent purchase, and they are slugs. That's why I did not want to include them in this particular video. I think I will dedicate a video to them all on their own. I am hoping that the gun turns out to be a really good slug shooter. But until the next one, we will see when I can get around to making that video and testing those slugs. Guys, thank you so much for checking this one out. Stay safe and shoot straight.